Hey guys, it's Hannah and welcome back to the Dyslexic Reader. It has been a hot minute. I have been away for a while, but that's not what this video is about. I want to get into my wrap up for my Newts readathon 2018 because I think I done quite well. I have my bullet journal here and I have my little spread that I did with all the subjects, grades, the books, and then I filled in my progress. So I'm going to read some of the stats to you before I get into actually reviewing the books. So I read no 1-star books, which for me is pretty much a DNF. So I didn't DNF anything. I did get 2 books 2 stars, 11 3 stars, 3 4 stars, 8 5 stars. So if you're good with maths, you'll already know how many books I've read, which was 24 books, and it was just shy of 6,000 pages. It was 5,938 pages, so I'm pretty pleased with myself. My goal was to get 5 outstandings and I ended up getting 8 outstandings, so I'm pretty happy. Some of the books were quite short, but it wasn't that I was really like pushing myself to get this done and was like going for short books. That's just kind of what I find myself in the mood for. For me, summer is not a time where I read a lot. It tends to be more like autumn and winter that I would read more. I've got, look, I done this yesterday for the start of September, my little autumn themed shelf. When the time comes, I'm going to get some little pine cones and stuff for it. But that's not what we're talking about today. This will probably be in like 2 sections because, as I said, it's 24 books. So I think I'll do 12 and 12. So if you're not subscribed to this channel and you would like to see the second part, make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss the second part when it comes up, because it'll probably be a couple of days after this part. If you're watching this a couple of days after it's uploaded, the second one's maybe already up. Who knows? Okay, let's start with arithmancy, arithmancy. People say it differently. The challenge to get an A was to read a book under 300 pages. For this I picked Penguin Little Black Classic and I picked The Tinderbox by Hans Christian Andersen. I thought this whole thing was going to be The Tinderbox because I've seen the movie and it was like a full movie, but The Tinderbox is only like 7 pages long and there's actually 6 short stories in this. If my cat starts meowing, I'm going to have issues with her. Little Klaus and Big Klaus was my favourite out of this, but I ended up giving them overall 3 stars. Some I really liked, some were okay, some were not my thing, so I ended up giving this a solid 3 stars. Cat has been dealt with. Okay, so for E, for arithmancy, I'm looking down at my bullet journal because there's no way I could remember all these things. I had to read a book that ends on an even number of pages. Running up and down 3 flights of stairs is not easy. I picked Children of the Lamp by P.B. Kerr. This was a genie adventure. It was really good. I give this 5 stars. It was not what I thought it was going to turn out to be. Like, I thought it was going to be like, oh, children realise they have magical powers, save the day. And it kind of was, but also kind of wasn't. The characters were really good. The storyline was good and different and unique. I think the magic system was kind of unique. You didn't really see the twist coming at the end. I saw like the major twist, but there was wee twists within it that I didn't see coming. Overall, just really a gorgeous book inside and out. To get an O in arithmancy, I had to read a sequel, you know, not the first of a series, and I picked The Slippery Slope, which is the 10th installment of series Unfortunate Events. I was just feeling this series at the time and I just gravitated towards number 10. I'm not rereading them or anything. This is obviously a reread. I've read it before, but just kind of went to the series and obviously couldn't pick the first one. I was like, what do you feel in the mood for? And this was the one that was it, and I gave it 5 stars. I absolutely love this series. If you are a middle grade reader or have a child or a nephew or whatever that is this kind of age range and they have not read this series, like, so good. So good. Okay, on to divination. For this I don't have like most of the books because a lot of the books, to fulfill the challenge, I didn't own them. So I went to the library and got them from the library or got them on like ebook, and then you'll get a picture. So for A, you had to read a book set in the future. And I read Space Runners. This was another 5-star for me. I really loved this book. For some reason, I just got really absorbed in the world. I thought that it was really creative. It's about these children that are accepted to like a scholarship program, summer camp thing on the moon. And I don't really go any more into it because I thought it was something different and was shocked by it. So I think you would need to go in like not knowing much about this book. But the characters are good, the character interaction's really good, the storyline progresses, and again, there's wee twists, and I just really, really enjoyed it, so I had to give it a 5-star. For E, you had to read a book under 200 pages, and I picked Castle in the Field by Michael Morpurgo. This was one of the wee little treasured books. They're not very long, they're very simple children's stories that you can read in 20 minutes or less. And this one was about children find kind of an old, they call it a castle, but I guess it was some kind of like storage facility on a farm, and they kind of camp out in it. It's like their wee after school hut that they all go to and meet in. It's just a fun story, but it didn't really have like a message or anything behind it, so I just gave it 3 stars. And finally, for an O in divination, you had to read a book about mythology, and I picked Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters. This is the second in the Percy Jackson series. I read the first one in April for the Owls, so I thought I'd read the second one during the Newts. The second one was my favourite the first time round, and I can't say second time round is my favourite because I still have 3 more to read, but I still really, really enjoyed this book. I don't know what it is about this one that I really enjoy. I don't know if it's like the setting. I do love like sea and water, so I don't know if that appeals to me. I don't know if it's the characters or just the general. There is, again, in this, it's more than you think it would be. Like Percy Jackson, like the first one, The Lightning Thief, is very like production line, sort of middle grade YA fantasy. Like person discovers that they're not who they thought they were. Magical parents, they have magical powers, they save the day. Kind of like I was talking about The Children of the Lamp. But I feel like this one really branches out as not what you would expect, kind of the formula you would expect the second book in this kind of series to go, and I think that's why I really like it. Transfiguration. For A, you had to read a book with a grey cover, and I picked The Last Block in Harlem by Christopher Hertz. This was a weird one, and I ended up giving 3 stars because I loved the first half and didn't like the second half. This follows a man who lives in Harlem, and it's just kind of him observing life on his block and kind of wanting to make a community out of these people, and it's kind of a bit about his life. I didn't like that there's not a timeline, like it's in chronological order, but it's hard to tell. Like sometimes you don't know if the next chapter is like the next day or like 6 months down the line. Like it seems to be day after day, and then his wife goes away for a 6-month trip, and then the next chapter she's already back. And for that, it kind of like, I was like, well, how long does this story take place over like 10 years or like 3 weeks? Do you know what I mean? It really messed with my head that it kind of wasn't spelt out. Like it didn't even reference seasons or weather or anything. So it was just really hard to tell kind of the pace of the story. And I really loved the first half, but the second half, it got political and weird. And the ending was really, really, really bizarre. But one of those kind of good ones that leaves you thinking about it, but it still was a bit crazy. But I would recommend this if you're looking for a read that's just going to kind of makes you think. I'm not going to say it's good, but I am really glad that I read it. If I didn't say, I give this a 3 star because of the first half, second half scenario. For an E in Transfiguration, you had to read an author that you had never read before, and I read Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race. I had a lot of feelings about this book, and I don't even know quite how to articulate them in a intelligent manner on screen. So I might do a separate video about this. I thought that some parts of it were really well done and some parts of it were not well done. I felt like parts of it were talking down to the audience. It was a blog post originally that kind of blew up and then was expanded into a book, and it kind of reads like a blog post, which when you put it into a 300+ page book, I didn't think that really worked. And there was just different aspects I remember thinking at the time, oh, that's like a really meaningful sentence or phrase or whatever, but like 2 paragraphs before it were kind of meaningless, so it kind of took away from it. There was just a lot, I had a lot of feelings about this book. I thought overall the premise was pretty good. The title is not what it suggests. It's called Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race, but it's about why we should talk to white people about race. And I just think it's one of these, like, everyone's going to have a completely different experience of this book. I think also being in Northern Ireland, obviously racism exists everywhere, but here it's religion that segregates people more than anything else. So a lot of it, even though it was set in the UK, it was English based. A lot of it didn't really translate into my own life because it's not the main issue here. People are segregated and fight and kill each other over religion, not over like race and backgrounds and stuff. So I don't know, parts of it really stuck out to me as like meaningful, and parts of it kind of jarred with me. So I don't know, I ended up giving it a 3-star, but I'm really glad that I tried it either way. And for an Owen Transfiguration, she had to read a book about royals, and I picked The Happy Prince by Oscar Wilde. This isn't really a book about royals. It's entitled The Happy Prince. It is a collection of short stories in which The Happy Prince is one of them. Again, 3 stars. I find short story collections really hard because you always love some or meh about some and don't like some. I can't even remember. Yeah, they were all a wee bit weird. I think The Happy Prince probably was my favourite. I didn't think that I had read this book before, but in reading the story it was familiar to me, so I don't know if I've been told it before or maybe watched some sort of cartoon adaptation as a child, or whether it's just like a really well-known kind of fairy tale-y story. But yeah, they were all Oscar Wilde-esque in their kind of morbid take on things. There was a lot of like death and dying, but also like the beauty in that, and kind of a lot of like tortured soul kind of elements in this. It was interesting for children's book, but there was nothing that really blew me away, and short stories aren't my bag anyway, so it was just a 3 stars for this one. So finally, I think I want to look at charms, leave that as like the last subject of the day, and then on the part 2 we'll move on to the next 4 subjects. So charms, read a book with magic in it. I read Welcome to Night Vale. This was an odd one because it was my library receipt's still in there. This was a podcast that was turned into a book. And when I heard about the premise of this, it sounds really interesting. It's just like a town. It's almost done in the style of like, what the podcast is done in the style of a local radio within the town and doing like news updates of the week, but there's like weird things in the town. There is a 19-year-old pawn shop owner who has been 19 for as long as anyone can remember. There is a young boy who looks different every single time you see him, and that's not just different like pink hair, I mean like fish head. There's just like loads of, and no one seems to come in and out and all this kind of stuff. I tried the podcast because when I heard that there was a book of it and all, I got really excited. Sounds right up my alley. Tried the podcast, didn't like the style of it. Forgot about it. The book came out last year. I never ended up getting excited and like the podcast. And then I saw it sitting in my library and I was like, you know what, I'll give the book a try. But the book is written in the way that the podcast is spoken, and I just didn't like it. It's not, the content of the story is pretty good and everything else. Just the writing style, it didn't jar with me. It seems like broken up or something. I don't know. I didn't like it in the podcast either, so I only ended up giving this a 2-star because it really was a slog to get through it and I didn't enjoy it. For E, you had to read a book with a cover that charmed you, and I just picked one of my little, if the sun wouldn't glare, which it's going to, little Winnie the Pooh book. I have a whole, I'll have to show you sometime. It's up there and I don't want to lift it down right now. My brother bought me, you can see this is number 24. My brother bought me for my 18th birthday a whole big box of loads of these little books of Winnie the Pooh. There's like maybe 30 or more in it, and they're just wee hardbacks and they are beautifully illustrated. They've got the 100 Acre Wood map as a kind of end page, but they're just littered throughout with the little original illustrations. This is not an original A.A. Mill book. It is written by David Benedictus. But But it was still really cute. It was about like a little otter appears in 100 Acre Wood and it hasn't rained in a long time. There's no water for him and they help him out. And it's just a 5-star. It's just so cute. The characters are so lovable. It was really well written in the style of Emil. Like I wouldn't have, if I didn't know, I wouldn't know if someone had given me that. I wouldn't have guessed that it was written by anybody else, and it's part of that little collection that I have. And this was just cute and fun and really uplifting. And finally, for an Owen Charms, you had to read a book that you think would leave a mark. And I picked Billionaire Boy by David Walliams. Now, this leave a mark for 2 reasons. One, David Walliams' books are great in primary school classroom. They appeal to a lot of kids. Kids love them. They're funny, they're fun, they're great read-along books. So I thought it could leave a mark in that way, that professionally I could use it again. But also leave a mark in, although his books are funny, they always have a really, really good message. And this one was not an exception.
It's 12 o'clock.
And this one was not an exception. I gave it 4 stars. It was really good. It's about this boy who is a billionaire. His father has blown up and made a lot of money, and he's kind of embarrassed about it. No one wants to be his friend. They all make fun of him. So he goes to a new school and tries to hide the fact that he is as rich as he is. And it's just a lot about friendship and what friendship really is and how money doesn't make you happy, and just like lots of things that are really hard to convey to children, but in David Walliams books they are conveyed in such an accessible way. So I definitely would say this one did leave a mark and possibly could be one that I use professionally in the future. That's it for part 1. I'm going to go and get myself a cup of tea and I will come back and film part 2, and it'll probably be up in a couple of days' time. I hope you're all happy, I hope you're all healthy, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye!